Okay, waiting for the live. Okay. It's getting set up so I can see the comments. Here we go. Okay, so my apologies to everyone. Had some crises since I set up the group. I attended a beautiful activation by Ramona Lapin on Saturday. And in the evening, I got a bunch of indigestion. And by 1 a.m., I was in full on massive suffering and pain. It ended up, it took me until probably 12, oh no, later than that, probably I guess 4 p.m. the next day to find out that I had a gallbladder attack. This is the worst intensity. I've had a gallbladder attack in my past, but this was far off the charts of sanity, of normal, of whatever. It went from 1 a.m, decided like suffering through it till approximately 8, and then went to the hospital, went to the ER. They immediately went into the room. It took me till like almost 1 to get some medication, and like just blinding how pain can I guess center you, but at the same time just drive you out of your mind. It was not something I'd wish on anybody, but I think it's important to speak about my experience. But it showed up, and at first I thought it was gas, and for then trying to move it and shift things, and then vomiting started. Once you get enough pain going in your body, you get to nauseated, and nothing was changing, nothing was happening. Absolutely no way I could move, shift would improve. By the time the medicine came, and basically a gallbladder attack is basically this place where all your bile is created before it goes into your stomach. Certain chemical conditions in your body will create these like little stones, and they're sharp and jagged that build up in your gallbladder. And basically when you get something that's very fatty and needs a lot of bile, it'll squeeze this, and it'll squeeze it so hard that it'll actually go and push up against the stones, and then the pain comes. And it's blinding, seething pain that I've never experienced in my life. But from the experience, I wouldn't say it calmed me, because there's this like franticness in my body of like just trying to escape from the pain and the suffering. But there was also this focus on breath. There's this focus on myself and what's going on. And I was doing Ho'oponopono. I was doing all the things that I could get to shift this, and nothing would change it. And I spoke to another man, and he said it's literally like trying to bite the wall. You're just like climbing and hoping anything will change it. And it created a focus in me, and it was kind of interesting because I was going through it. And once they got the x-rays after they give me the pain meds, the ladies were like, holy shit, how did you stand up to that pain? Most people would have been just like in tears and dying. And somehow I'd found this presence inside my body to see it, to realize it, to experience it. Not that I loved it in any way, shape, or form, but it was just presence. And that presence just started me to look at different things. Some of it I couldn't do at the time because I was just so overwhelmed, but other bits, when I came out of it, somebody said the gallbladder is your repressed inner focused anger. And that's exactly what it was. It was frustration at my life experience and certain things that happened that I couldn't change. And it was anger at God. It was anger at me. It was anger like, why in the hell does all this shit keep happening to me? But it gave me this focus, and I don't know how to describe it, but it was kind of like seeing under love. it was kind of like giving me a flash in the moment to say how important life is and how important living is, and then it could all be taken away in a moment. But that there's this love underneath, and now I can see it. It's like my body was storing all the anger that I had about my experience and all the stuff that's gone on, and it went into my body, and me, or my soul, or the part that's not specifically my body, was bypassing all those frustrations and those angers of what had happened, and it had no place to go. And eventually that body had to just like scream, and it just basically contracted that gallbladder and made it blinding white, burning intensity of what needed to be done. And it was a blessing. I don't want it to happen again by any extent of the imagination, but it was a blessing in I got to see that part of myself that is holding on to stuff, is not releasing stuff, is not allowing it pass through. And it's created something that I'm not sure, like a whole bunch of stuff has happened afterwards. My landlord told me out of the blue today that he's going to put the house up for sale, which puts a lot of uncertainty in my home. Maybe that means I'm supposed to be moving on. I don't know what it is, but it's not an easy thing to receive, that all of a sudden your house could disappear out from under your feet. But it's also given me this perspective to see other people's experience better. And I could be sitting here in a massive amount of fear, trying to prevent from having this happen, or believing the societal thing that you got to cut your gallbladder out, and once it's got that, it's never going to be fixable. And it was so surprising to see all the medical professionals, because I've been through this once before and I moved through it, and dissolved all of them in a very short period of time. But when I tried to say that, no, it's impossible, you got to take it out. But your gallbladder has an important part and it creates the bile, which allows you to digest food. And once you take it out, then that process is a lot more complicated, and it'll affect you forever in how you process food. So, and then it's got all these other beautiful hormones and things that it does for the body, but that widely held medical belief is that you don't need it and you got to take it out. But I'd far prefer to process that anger. I'd far prefer to go into it and feel the suffering and pain that I didn't even realize I was putting into there, and now starting to create new possibilities. And by releasing that, accepting that, surrendering to the fact that I haven't taken responsibility for all the things that have happened in my life, and I really need to, because like I've done it in 90+% of it, but there's that last 10% where it's just like I've suffered so much and I had so much pain in this life, and oh, that was so hard. And my experiences with women and relationships, and my experiences with sacred sexuality work and different things, this big pile of like I'm owed by the universe for all this shit that happened to me. But at the same time, I've had an opportunity to be in massive integrity in really nasty situations where people were calling me and saying I was something I wasn't, but I couldn't even have a chance to say that it wasn't, or say my side of the story. It was just like guilty because somebody's got a trauma and they're doing that. So hello, Roxanne, and hello, thank you, Robin. But all those things feel like they owe me, and like, fuck, I did so much hard work as a spiritual being that the universe owes me now. And to hang on to that is hurting me. And it's the hardest thing to ever say, because maybe it's the last gasp of the ego that's coming. I'm going to have to relabel the way I described this video a little bit, because we went in a different direction. But that ego piece, that piece that's hanging on to say I deserve and I'm owed and all this kind of stuff, it's part of the process of letting go. I'm going to say it's the hardest thing, because we all want to have a purpose, a meaning. to all these things that happened to us, how ugly they were, how messy they were, how disrespectful. Sorry, I'm getting over a little bit of a cold as well. But you sit and you want to have a meaning to all this stuff. And I'm going to tell you, there is no meaning. There is a meaning in you had to design an experience as a spiritual warrior or whatever you want to call it. And that experience taught you something. It put you through a situation that forced you to choose A or B or better or worse or whatever, but it taught you and gave you an opportunity to carry it, to hold any meaning to it after you've experienced the lesson. It's impossible, is what I'm finding. And we just have to surrender and let go and just trust that there is a higher good that happened that maybe you can't understand right now. And it'll give you some peace, because you don't have peace when it's like, oh geez, this is awful and I want better and it's not coming. And a lot of that happens in my life right now. But it's like there's a divine plan that's above it that says you're going to be here and we're going to get you there the quickest way possible. And the more struggle you are, the more you're hanging on to every stair on the step when they're just trying to glide you down and get you there. And to put meaning as to why. Did I do something wrong? Did I deserve this? Did I open myself? Did I miss something? Or should I stood up for myself? Is the very thing that's digging your fingernails in to try and get meaning out of the thing. But if you got the integrity lesson, if you got the surrender lesson, if you got the lesson where you're forgiving people and standing up for yourself, sometimes there's a million different things that'll happen. I'm going to tell you right now, you may not see what that did for you until a later stage, sometimes 5 years later, maybe even 10. But trust that nothing happened because you made a mistake. Trust that nothing happened because you did it wrong or you missed a step or whatever. It's all perfect. So once you can get to that all perfect stage, you can say, okay, this is happening. I surrender to it. Give me the higher lesson. Give me the higher good. Give me the the reason. So at least I have a feeling, and then get to be just like, I forgive it. I forgive you, God. I forgive you, universe. I forgive you, Paul. I forgive you, the person that's my persecutor, and just acknowledge that they may be a teacher. They're a person that has their own problem and they're poking really hard over their own situation. But at the same time, you got an equal and opposite lesson that's coming for you. And once you start to acknowledge all of those things, all of a sudden you're not struggling against what's happening. You're allowing it, and then you're looking for the higher good. You're looking for the higher reasoning and the lesson, and magic will come up, because it'll be like, holy frick, okay, this person needs somebody to stand in their power for them and say no and call them out and be direct in communication and all this kind of stuff. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, wow, I'm more powerful now because I can see underneath the conversation. How many times do you go in a conversation with somebody and they're not saying the actual thing that they mean? They're saying something sideways, and nobody's really getting a gift out of it. But all of a sudden you're like, hey, hold on. I had that conversation today with my landlord. It's like, okay, well, you indirectly told me that the realtor is coming or whatever. Well, to me, that says I'm not going to have a home in next month, probably. And I said, I'm not going to leave my room 12 times a day because people want to view it. I said, I'll open the door and I'll stand out of the way, but I'm not spending half an hour to go back and forth while the house is viewed. And he understood all that, and it was all beautiful and stuff like that, but it got me back to a point of feeling safe. Now it's like this unsaid thing, and he's like, well, I don't think I'm even going to sell it, but I just wanted to see what would happen. And it's like, well, there's 3 other people living in the house and we're all affected by your choice. So, but to have that power and not to feel afraid or whatever, it's like, oh, well, yeah, it's his house and it's his choice or whatever, but I have some rights too, because I'm paying money to stay here and all these things. And that's a lesson. I could say, oh, the world's just destroying me or whatever. No, to stand in that power, to have that easy conversation. It was quite easy once I went and had that good discussion. But my old self would be just like, oh, what if he gets mad? What if he whatever? And it's like, no, I have rights. because this is my home too. And I have a signed agreement that says that that's going to happen. And now I feel safer. Otherwise, I'd be just like, oh, fuck, what am I going to do? And how am I going to do this? But maybe the universe is saying, okay, now it's time to something else is going to show up. So I open to that. I'm not clinging to this anymore. Let's see what happens. And, but really, what other choice do you have? To sit and be mangled and frustrated? So look at all these things. I could sit here and be in complete and total suffering and complete and total anger. I was in the ER 2 days ago, and this is happening with this, and I don't have my own home, and money's tight, and I can tell you a whole bunch of problems I've been having with financial advisors and trying to get money so I can just at least live. And the people are angry at me for wanting to take my money out and wanting to hold them accountable and all these things. And it's just like the insanity of all the people around me right now makes no sense. But I got to keep pushing on. I got to keep moving forward and stand up for me. Have a hard conversation with them. Have a phone call. Say this has got to happen. Blah, blah, blah. Thank you, by the way, Bonnie, for the yes magic. So I want to wind this up, but I just want to show this example of I could be in complete and total wreck right now. My health is this, and I'm worried about that, and worried about my house and all this kind of stuff. But there's this peace inside. There's this, okay, something better is going to happen. If this isn't meant to be, and it's not, if it's falling apart, and these are the things that are happening, I got to accept it. And really, I want something way better. I feel I'm at the bottom of everything. I'm just subsisting right now, but I want to grow. I want to shine. I want to be part of this community. I want to be physical in location with people so we can have meetings and potlucks and trainings and all these kind of things. But I don't know, up until now, I didn't feel that the world was ready, but something's changed and it's beautiful. And I'm accepting. Once you get to the point where you realize you don't have any control and that there's a higher plan and it's probably far better than you can possibly imagine, things get so much easier. And that's really where I'm at right in this moment. I could be scared and debilitated and other things, but feel how calm I am. Feel how, okay, this is just another bump in the road. And really, I'm ready for less bumps and more clean and whatever, because I've really formed myself. I'm in integrity. I can have hard conversations. I really feel I shine love to people and I hold situations. And I can talk about my whole medical experience and how beautiful all the medical workers were, even though they're overworked, and the people I met in the waiting room and the people I met at each of the different tests I had to get done or whatever, they were all good and bright and happy. And I shined that back. And it was a good overall experience, even though I was in like earth-shattering pain for parts of it. And they were doing their best, and all I could judge them and say, oh geez, they could have been there better, quicker with the medicine and all those kind of things, but it just doesn't feel important. And overall, it was a good experience. I even met a beautiful young lady in the waiting room afterwards, and we had a beautiful discussion. And just those little things that can happen while you're having a horrible day can make that day completely different. So let that happen, see what shows up. So anyways, been a crazy time, getting better every day, and keep shining, people. We got this, and the magic is happening, just new perspectives. That's what we have to go through, and all these things are gonna clear, and we're gonna shift, and it's gonna be amazing. So I love you all. I thank you for tuning in, and we will talk more soon. See you soon. Bye.